Hey guys, welcome to TMS Consultation. Hindsight to your foresight. Ugo here, and this is one of our workshop / private mentoring group consultation kind of thing. And today we're gonna go over a few topics. So I'll bring into the frame. Hello, I can't hear you. Your audio is not come through.
I'm connected now. Sorry.
There we go.
Hold on. This is. How buddy?
What did they encircle it to?
Love to see it. We love to hear it.
Love to hear it. Okay, one second. Let me just get I want to get some pieces of paper just in case I need to take any notes. Let me get a big one. How's your day, madam?
Busy.
Standard.
Busy. Literally standard, but emotion.
All right. So we're gonna get into.
I have my pen and paper ready with me.
Cool.
Oh yeah.
So we're gonna get into it. Obviously, yesterday you asked me a couple of questions, which I thought would be worth, because we haven't actually done a video on it. To be honest, I won't be answering all the questions, but I'll be helping guide you along the way. And obviously we'll record this, we'll put it up. As
he told me, because I really was wearing my bonnet, and the bonnet is here. So
you know, the helmet. What's it? Helmet of salvation.
I said, just in case there's somebody else in this, let me just take it off because I don't know.
Nah, this one is just you. From next week, we're going to be doing every weekly on Thursdays with between 7 and 9, either with Uber Lights or with other ones, with other groups, with other youth groups. And then obviously people who come to me for private ones will be doing it on an off schedule session. Yeah. So
I heard it.
For anyone who's watching, before I even start, I am not a financial advisor. And even if I was a financial advisor, I am not your financial advisor. So if you need financial advice, go and seek somebody to help you with your specific scenario. But for my people there, that's different. But even my people there, because anyone can take you to court. But okay, so madam, shoot away. So we were talking about credit. What bank do you bank with, first of all?
NatWest.
That was the question I was supposed to ask you yesterday. I forgot.
Yeah. All
right. So, okay, sorry. Work is calling my name too. Okay, so tell me a little brief of how you got to this question.
I actually needed a bank statement. So I was just going online on my online banking. And I just saw, check your credit score. I was like, oh, let me check it. Like, you hear it all the time. So let me check it. So I checked it. It was, where's my phone? I took a screenshot of it. So for someone that doesn't know anything about credit or hasn't there we go. It was 578. I was like, okay, I don't know what that means, but cool. And they were basically saying that the reason, the positives and negatives were that one, the positives was that I had no CCJs and I was on the electoral roll.
Yep.
The negatives were that I don't have a credit card. Okay. And I don't have a mortgage, like an active mortgage. So they were like, those are the two reasons as to why, that's what they told me, as to why your credit score is low. So I was like, you know what, I should get a credit card. And I was just like, teaching Mentee, I know that they have a video on credit somewhere. Yeah. So I watched it and I was like, okay, cool, but which one should I go for? Because you hear so many, and I'm like, I don't even know where to start when it comes to looking.
Okay. So they were correct and they were wrong in telling you that the reason why you don't have a credit, a good credit score, is purely for the fact that you don't have a credit card and a mortgage. The reason why credit cards are and to some extent mortgages, but even credit cards greater than mortgages in terms of increasing your credit scores, because for example, you applying for a credit card, some people, when they check their credit score, they're shocked by their credit score, because some people can have a high one, some people can have a low one, regardless of whether they had a credit card or not. And that comes into other factors. So obviously one of the things that you've done well that most people don't realize is one way to boost your credit score is registering to vote. Just like have your name on the electoral roll, increases your credit score just like that, because it's when it comes to your credit score and your credit report. Now think of your credit score as just a representation of your credit report, and it just gives you an indication of where you are based on these guys' scale. Now, obviously, as you've seen in the previous videos, there's 3 credit scores that you have. So it's not all credit scores are created equal, just depends on who you look at. And so it comes down to the reason why credit cards are better is because you have something called revolving debt and non-revolving debt. So people who typically have a good credit score. So I know some of my friends came out of uni, applied for a credit card, got a good limit because, oh my days, blah, blah, blah. I didn't know I had a good credit score, blah, blah, blah. And they almost get this false sense of security that they've been doing something amazing. But 9 times out of 10, they're probably the person who bills was coming from out of their account in uni. So what counts as credit, first and foremost, is pretty much everything. So your phone is a form of credit. Well, if you get on contract, your water bill, gas, electricity, utilities, all of that. If you get car insurance, but you do it monthly, it's considered a form of credit. And all these other things that people don't realize is credit, is forms of credit. And in terms of what it can allow you to do in the future or not allow you to do, is that people have lost jobs because they have a poor credit score. People have lost out of rented accommodation. People have lost out of homes. Mortgages have gone out. People won't. You might have. Listen, you could have 100K deposit down. Actually, well, that's a bit facetious because there's ways to go around it with bad credit anyway. But you could effectively have 30% down for a house, and the bank would just say no, especially at a time like this that they're very risk averse. So your credit score is a very important thing. And I remember the video we were doing I haven't edited it, but the one that we did around Christmas. But it was basically like, if you imagine like you come to a bank or you come to a lender, which anybody can be a lender, basically they want to find out who you are and whether they should trust you in terms of all of that kind of stuff. This is your CRV check, this is your CV, your financial report, this is what it is. And it's so important. So obviously your credit card. So if you other ways to boost your credit scores, obviously 1, registering to vote. 2, not changing in your documents, having a consistent address on all your documents. So from your bank accounts and stuff like that. So people don't even realize that there's credit referencing agencies, which are that people who create your credit score. So Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. But there's another company, which I forget their name, but they're like a fraud company to double check who you are, who works with them to make sure you are who you are. So if there's any inconsistencies, like if you're changing your address every week, blah, 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 then it's a bit techie. If you doing stuff like that, like, if that's right, if you're doing most documents, like they can forgive you for maybe once in a while throwing your middle name here and not putting your middle name over there. But if, you interchangeably go from, like one of our friends from Victoria to Chinagoram, like if you're gonna be doing things in your documents, they should be the same, because they may not be able to match up Vicky and Chinagoram, same last name, but they might just think your brother or sister. So you need to have consistency over those kind of things. So that's the things people need to think about. Now, obviously, you got 5, 7, which do you know what type of credit score who they did the credit score through?
It's TransUnion.
Okay, TransUnion 5, 7,
8.
That's not bad. That's decent.
It was fair.
Yeah, that's decent. Yeah, but like you're close. Like once you get to 605, you're good. You're like an excellent, like for TransUnion. So it's no worries. Now before I continue in terms of about the credit card point of view, in terms of checking your credit score, you have 3 credit scores. Now to check your TransUnion one, you want to download an app called Credit Karma. Credit Karma. So it will give you a credit score every week. It will give you a credit score. It will update your credit score every week, and it's free. And it'll also give you alerts if anybody searches your name or something like that. Then your second one is with Equifax, and for you to get your free one from them, you just need to download an app called ClearScore. Yeah, clear score. Or money supermarket, but clear score is better.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third one, which is the one that most banks use, is Experian.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Experian is the biggest one, and most banks will either use Experian plus Equifax or Experian plus TransUnion. And some banks in the past may only have used one of them. So Monzo, for example, when they started off, they were only reporting to TransUnion. So if you had anything on your Equifax or Experian report, they wouldn't know. So to get your Experian credit score, you need to go to Experian directly. Now they provide a free credit score for you, not your report, but just the score once a month for free.
Mm-hmm.
But anything more than that, you need to pay $14.99 a month to get that.
Okay.
Now, if you want to get the free version of Experian, which a lot of people don't even know about, you need to go to Money Saving Expert, sorry,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Money Saving Expert Credit Club.
Expert credit.
And then you need to create an account with so if you go to Money Saving Expert, and then how do I navigate to get to Credit Club? Um, I'll find the link and I'll send it to you. But Credit Club, I have an account with them as well.
Okay.
And you'll be able to get your, even though occasionally, like right now, I pay for my Experian just because I want it for now. So yeah, if you search Credit Club, you'll be able to get to it. But I'll find the link and I'll send it to you. And if I find it, I'll put it in this link in the description. But if you do that, that'll give you a snapshot of where you are, and it also give you like kind of an eligibility calculator of where you are in terms of getting certain loans, getting certain credits, etc. Whether it's credit cards or whatnot. And obviously they're not always gospel. So, like I said, other things that come into play is in terms of your credit scores about all the other kinds of credit you have. So when it comes to your credit score, there's a couple of main things that are important. Your credit, and we'll get to one of the most important ones after the fact when we go into credit cards when it comes into your credit utilization. Well, we'll talk about one of the important things, which is probably like the most important thing, is on-time payments. Never miss a payment, ever, ever. And if you're ever in a situation where you have to miss a payment, always just call. I think I'll speak on, for in our community, it's black credit cards are taboo. Most of our parents are
Yeah,
like,
literally, you're scared of them.
but
Yeah.
the thing is, most of them, our parents are scared of it because they were burned from it, but it's more because they didn't use it correctly. So, and they weren't told how to use it, and then they thought it was their money. And no, it's not your money. So, and when a lot of people, when they're in kind of debt like this, they defer to just avoid. And it's probably the worst thing you can do it's the worst thing you can do when you owe person money. Because I'm knocking at the door, literally, because banks are to some extent required to not put you in financial stress. So they're required to actually show that they're assisting you to deal with your debt and deal with your problems. So if you call them, they're able to do a payment plan, they're able to rejig things, they'll be able to defer things, etc., etc. And if you call them and engage them, they should, in 9 times out of 10 situations, help you out. Because as well, they want their money. So even if you see this in some situations, you may get into serious debt, and these guys will be like, okay, cool, yours 5K,
I'll pay £10 a month.
maybe £10 a month. We'll halt it, no more credit, or we'll be like, oh, we'll give you, or maybe some of them, if you negotiate it, especially if you're about to go into bankruptcy, if you tell them it's 4K, but you know what, right now all I've got is 1K, I'm about to go into administration and I can't give you anything else. Like literally, they'll take it. But it's provided you're talking to them. If not, what happens is they will sell on your debt and continue selling on your debt to debt collectors who buy it on the cheap, who actually give them the 1K. So the 4K, they'll just sell it to them for 1K. And then the debt collector would now buy it for 1K, hoping to get 4K, and then continue selling it on until somebody comes to knock on your door. And then that's how you get to situations where people get county court judgments, which is CCJs, which that one is normally like a blacklist for a lot of forms of credit. Like you'd be denied getting a phone because of it. And commonly, most people get that because of they forget to pay their parking ticket. They either forget or they just say they're not going to pay this. And then if that, it depends. If it's private though, not like penalty charge notice, that's council, they're coming for you. But the parking charge notice, if they have the energy, and depending on how big they are, because what they'll just do is they'll cluster loads of people together and then do a joint court case and then give people CCJs randomly. Because
can your CCJ ever be revoked, like end?
No. So it can end. It's on your credit score. It's your credit account for 7 years, 6 to 7 years. Then it drops off. So yeah, that's the reason why it's very bad. Like obviously, let me say, if you've sorted out everything you want to do in terms of credit now, you just bought a home or whatever, and like you're calm, maybe you get a CCJ right now, it doesn't affect you too much because you don't need to do anything in the near future. But if you come to it, but it will always affect you somehow. And even if you find a way around it, for some of them, let's say buying a home or even getting a job or getting rent or whatever, 9 times out of 10, for you to be able to overcome that, you're either getting bad interest or paying more money for that. So it's just a long process. And you will need credit at some point in your life. Even people who are rich will use credit because it just makes sense. So now coming to credit cards. So obviously your on-time payments, most important thing. You got your credit mix, which is about 15%. So what is the different kinds of credit you have? From phone to utilities to bank accounts, credit cards, to mortgages. Now, the more mix you have, it tells the lenders that, oh my days, more different kind of lenders are willing to give you money. Because think about your phone contract. You think you're just paying £50 a month. Let's say a year with £50 a month, that's what, £600. Yeah. So how it comes out to them and why it's also taken as a form of credit is because when you go, let's say a 1-year contract, £50 a month, you see it as I'm just paying £50 a month. They see it as you owe us £600 and you're going to be repaying us £50 a month. So that's how it comes out on your report. And so your credit mix matters to them, your on-time payments matter, and then there's something called credit utilization. Now, credit utilization is basically how much of your available credit, and more specific, they're talking about your credit cards. How much of your available credit are you using? And so, for example, and they're very, how should I say? They're very like mathematical with the thing. Like, it's basically like if I gave you £1,000, if you spend £300 a month, or let's say you spend £500 a month, you're using 50% of your credit limit. That's how they see it. Now, if I gave you 100K and you're using 50K, they still see it as 50%. So even though, let me say, me and you, like our credit score, we have everything the same except our credit limits. Even if you're spending, only £40 a month because they gave you £100 credit limit and you're only spending £40 a month, they look at it at the same level as me spending 40K if I had a 100K limit. So you have to be very specific on it, and your utilization.
How much are you using relative to how much you have?
So beautiful. And so it's depending on how much you have. And so normally would recommend, generally people will say under 50%. Best practice is like under 30%. Really good is just like keeping it under 20%, under 10, 20%. I aim always to keep it under 10%, but at max, I never allow it to go over 30%.
Okay.
Yeah. So even because your first time with credit cards, you you want to look at your other credit scores to find out more so where you are on those, because so that you can kind of see what you could get. Now, why I ask you who you bank with is because putting credit cards aside for a second in terms of your credit score, put your credit score aside, most banks have their own internal scoring metric.
Yeah.
So, let's say I made my main account is with Santander. So they normally have a score metrics based on my how much money I've got, because they know how much money is coming into my account, how much is leaving, blah, blah, blah. But they don't see what I might be doing with another bank, let's say NatWest, Barclays, whatever. So they have a behavioral kind of matrix on you. That's the reason why people will be like, okay, your credit score might not be amazing, but your bank will be specifically targeting you with ads of like, oh, you could get a credit score, you could get a credit score.
Yeah.
So now, in terms of going for a credit card, there's a couple of things you can do before you actually apply for a credit card, because there's two things that affect your credit report. So, in terms of all those things, but when people are searching you or looking for you, there's two things. There's a soft search and a hard search, or a soft inquiry or a hard inquiry. It's interchangeable, but it's just soft and hard, basically. Now, the soft one is almost like they're just peeking. They don't get a full idea. I'm looking at the window of your house. I can't really see the kitchen, but from the window, your living room looks clean. You know what I mean? So that's a soft search, and you can do a soft search with most, like if you go to the websites of most, what's it called? Of most credit card providers, they will normally have like an affordability calculator or an eligibility calculator, which if you go in there, they'll probably ask you how much you're earning, how much you spend, all those kind of things. And then it will give you an idea of whether you get it or not. It's not a complete yes or no, but it's just an indication. The other ways you can do soft searches are going to comparison sites like Money Saving Expert or Money Supermarket or any of these ones, or compare the market and whatnot. And then if you put in your details, blah, 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 then they'll kind of show you based on that. And if you were to go, for example, to Credit Karma, you will see that Compare the Market has checked your credit score. Because people don't realize that when they're doing that, they are going to do a soft search. But soft searches are okay. So you can do 1,000 soft searches. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect your credit score. So like, and when people come to like ask about credit increases and all this kind of stuff, you can actually ask them whether they'll do a soft search or a hard search, because the hard search is where it affects you. Now, that's the soft searches. So before you apply, it's always good practice to do soft searches. That's, whether it's mortgages or whatever, it's good to do soft searches. But now a hard search is when they've actually gone and checked, or you've actually gone and made an application. And so you don't want to have too many of that happening. In fact, you probably only want one every 6 months, realistically. Or you want to be making a new application as opposed to, you can have a couple of hard searches, but you only want to be making a couple of applications, an application almost once every 6 months. So let's say you've got a credit card now, you want to start building up the number of credit cards you have. Wait 6 months before you apply again, because a hard search is going to be applied to you. And then if you get too many hard searches for applications on your credit report, it looks to them as if you're desperate for money.
Yeah, you're desperate.
So and the thing is, it's funny as well, because let's say I can get a mortgage, a phone contract, and get car insurance on a monthly basis, all happen in the same month. It's all innocuous. It seems like it's unrelated, but on a behavioral credit report point of view, the lender's like, it's a bit of a sticky one still. So you want to look at those kind of things. So if you go to apply for now, you get a hard search applied to your credit report when you finally actually make the application. Now, when it comes to now choosing your credit card, now it depends what you're looking for your credit card for. Now, people use credit cards for travel, for payments, for points, for perks, for building up to get to those kind of like elite status. You start getting the black cards and all these kind of things. Like I work at an airport. If you come to VIP and show your American black card, that is your ticket to go through fast track. Simple. Slap a card. No ticket, just go through fast track. And so it's serious business. So it's different things. Now, when it comes to choosing your credit card, the likelihood is that if you don't have much of a credit history, you probably be getting a card that might be about £500 credit limit, maybe £100 credit limit, depending on what your score is for Experian or other things. They may give you a higher one, potentially like £1,000 or whatever. But regardless of the limit they give you, the idea is that for the first 6 months, regardless of your card, the first 6 months is typically like using the card, and then they kind of see how you use it. Like if you don't use
probation,
almost like probation. So what you want to do, what I would say is just like use like 10 to 20% of it max, and actually use it once a month, but go and pay it off completely. And then that's how you use your credit card for free. So you benefit by using your credit card, because if you're not active in your credit card, then it's not really, especially if you get it newly, you need to start using it for it to actually make an impact. So the irony of a credit score is you need to get credit to get a credit score. You know what I mean? So that's the irony within it. So you want to just spend about 10 to 20% of it max. And then, all these people that end up paying for credit builder kind of stuff, it's stupid. Don't do it. There's no point. It's a waste of money. They're just going to tell you to do what these guys are doing, or some of them will do some like credit booster thing, or some of them might do something shady, like if you got a lot of debt, will now put you in bankruptcy. So that just weird stuff. Just leave it alone. All you have to do is just pay back your bills on time. The biggest, if you have a lot of credit card debt, the easiest way to increase your score is to pay off your debt. And so let's say you have a £500 limit, spend £50 to £100 per month, then pay off before your statement date. Now, your first month is almost like a free hit to some extent, because it only starts your first month. So you have a 30-day or 28-day billing cycle. So your first month is almost calm, because it's like, they go via the previous month. So let's say this month I didn't post anything, a balance was 0. When I carry over something now to the next month, that's when they'll be like, okay, he carries something over. So if you imagine, let's take your first 30 days, you spend £100, then they're not going to charge you any interest that first month. So now they come to the end of that 30-day cycle, they'll tell you this is your statement, you carried over 100, pay back in full. Now if you pay back that whole 100 in full, then your state, and you don't spend anything again in that next 30 days, it will count as 0. And so that you have no statement. But then if you now do 100, but then now you now pay back 100, let's say in day 31. And so you paid up that 100 from your statement balance. So your statement balance, when it says your minimum payment will be 0, then you now spend another 100 in that month. Your next statement balance will now again just say 100. But if you go do 101, where it's bigger than the other one, then now you've carried the balance over for 2 statements, and then it will now start charging you interest on the £1. And then so compound interest is a beautiful thing I talk about in terms of investments, but in credit cards, it quite easily becomes negative because what happens is that people only pay the minimum payment, and the minimum payment, if you do the minimum payment, it counts as an on-time payment. So that's good. So you always, no matter where you are in life in terms of finances, if you always pay the minimum. Like even if you only had £50 left to eat, you pay off. You pay off the £50 there, let it clear as your minimum payment, and then use that same card next week to go and buy the food with that £50, because it's still there, it's not going anywhere. But don't go and pick, because you're gonna be paying more in the future. Now, so you gotta pay off the minimum payment, and so that's the reason. And so you always want to pay that off, regardless. And then after about 6 months or so, then you now build up to new credit cards. Now, in terms of interest, that interest is obviously APR, annual percentage rate. There's to be honest, if you're doing it correctly, you don't really care, because like they'll show you a purchase one and a cash advance one, a balance transfer one. It doesn't really mean much to most people who aren't really in this. So purchases is just like grocery or whatever. Cash advance is if you take money out, this is how the interest they'll charge you, plus a 3% advance rate for taking out money physically, which you should not do. You shouldn't take out money physically from there unless obviously in serious strife. And then balance transfer is a different kind of card. Now, in terms of types of credit cards, when you start, you're not really going to get a card. You're not going to be worrying about a card that has a lot of perks. You just want a simple card. Let me see NatWest. What credit cards does NatWest have? I don't like NatWest's website. So basic. So there's simple credit cards like Barclays Forward card. I think Amazon has a decent one. There's a Tesco's one, Sainsbury's. Let me see, 0% of purchases. So low spending on low APR. They'll just show 26 credit cards. Why are you doing too much? Good for. Okay. So in terms of when you go to these credit cards, they'll give you like a potential rate that you could get. Now for a lot of these guys, there's what's it called? They're only required to give 51% of the people what is being advertised.
What do you mean?
So if they say if they say, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Now, yep. So if they say, let's say this is assumed credit is £500, yeah, only 51% of people need to get that for it to not cause advertisement. So, you know.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So the lowest ones you typically see out here, which is really good, is 18.9. That's what I got for my student card. Now, obviously, you see stuff like 26. This one, NatWest credit card, good for low rates, no foreign transaction fees. So when you're starting off, you just want a basic credit card. You don't care too much about what's going on. You probably, it might be easier to get one via your own bank. And so you see, like over here, you see 0% balance transfers, purchases, blah blah blah. So, for example, me, I have four credit cards. One of them is just a basic credit card, a student one that I got as a student, but it's a basic credit card. One of them is one that I use for traveling and perks and all those kind of stuff. One is one I use for cashback, and one is just one that I got, which is also a credit builder card. But I just got it just because anytime I feel like just boosting my score, do that. Now, credit builder card is just typically those credit cards that have a trash, interest rate. They're typically like in the 35%, 35.9, and those are the ones that are typically like Capital One, Aqua, Vanquish, all these ones you randomly get in the mail. Like, how do you get my name? They're typically credit builder cards. Then when it comes into cards, students, then it's typically low, 18.9, typically about £500. And those are credit cards you probably want to be starting with. I know of, let's say, Barclays Forward cards. So this is Money Saving Expert. These guys are really good in terms of as a resource. But Barclays Forward. Now, once you get your first credit card and you actually have some credit cards to your name, or a credit card to your name, you start building credit. That's when you now want to start talking about going on to different ones. That's when you now start talking about, okay, perks, lounge access, all those kind of stuff. Like with Amex, or you would never start with Amex. Like, some people are able to get it as their first card. It's just because they have a good credit score. But you can see, even with this one, the APR is not amazing. Like 33. Like, I think my cards, there's like 18.9, 22. I think one of them is like 35, and then I forget what the other one is. But again, I don't aim to carry a balance. So, again, your thing could be as low as 50. But yeah, so in terms of starting with your credit cards, these kind of credit cards, they're basic. They don't really have much perks. Maybe 0% interest on your purchases for the first 3 months. But realistically, if you're buying it and paying it off, then it doesn't really make any difference to you. Now, obviously, when it comes to your credit cards, people use credit cards for loads of different reasons. One good perks of them is purchase protection. Oh, cute! Looking at that. One of the yeah, no, that's fine. I got to go anyway. But in terms of let me start sharing. In terms of one of the good things, obviously, is purchase protection. So for me personally, I never buy anything online with a debit card. I always buy it with a credit card, tickets, phone, traveling, any of those kind of things. So it's best to be used with a credit card because your information out there. And I think it's section 12. I forget the legislation, but basically think of it as the bank is going to fight for you because technically you're using their money. So just think of it like that, as opposed to anything, and there's different amounts where there's below £100, over £100, blah, blah, blah. But most times if you have somebody, do fraud, or you get a package that you didn't receive and Amazon's not listening to you, you call up your credit card company, they'll just force the transfer back of the money. Yeah, they'll run you your P's, simple. And so that's how they go about with these things. So your credit card is the safest way to be doing things. So whenever somebody loses money from your debit card, unless it's immediately it happens and you notify your bank, sometimes they're able to do it, but 9 times out of 10 they're not able to stop it. So even when you do direct debits and you cancel direct debit from your bank side, if you still need to go to the person who issued the direct debit and cancel it from their side, because sometimes people can continue taking the money anyway, even if it's cancelled from your bank side. So credit cards are a good tool. Whatever card that you start with, you never get rid of it. Because one of the things about credit cards, and one of the reasons why it's good to get it early, is because one of the other things that helps your credit score is your credit age and your credit history. So how long you've had credit history for. So if you're one of those people who your phone is in your mom's name, you paid no bills, you just paid all bills included in your rent. It's only recently now they're adding rent to credit reports. Basically you had nothing to your name. The most you had to your name was an overdraft, which your account will still your debit account still goes in your credit report, sorry. And to be honest, even right now, not as financial advice, but right now, because of the laws things that changed in last year April, most overdrafts are worse than credit cards right now, because people have a false sense of security with overdrafts, which they could have in the past, but now most overdrafts are 40-something% interest APR, and they're very ruthless with the thing. So except for the people who have like a 2-month or 6-month kind of freedom because of coronavirus. So when it comes to your credit card, you choosing your first credit card, I would say just go for something simple. Maybe preferably go for one with the bank that you already bank with. And then whether it's that be like the Barclays Forward card, I think Halifax is a decent one. Amazon have a decent one to start off with. You obviously your bank is a decent one. You don't want a balance transfer. A balance transfer card, just for your understanding, is one of those cards that if you have a lot of debts in other credit cards, people will now transfer that onto a balance card because it will normally have a 0% interest period for, let me say, 2 years. So you might be, so that you don't have, let's say you pay a 3% interest fee for transferring it over, but you won't pay any more interest for those 2 years, and you use those 2 years to get rid of your debt, which is a good thing to have in handy, so that you don't have to worry about your debt increasing, because you can be fighting it down and it's going up. And so what I mentioned about minimum payments are designed for you to pay off the interest of that month and a little bit of the principal. And so just for illustrative purposes, if you have a £500 balance and you're supposed to pay that back, and you only pay the minimum payment, do you know how long it'll take you to pay it off?
No.
Guess. 5 years.
So how much is the minimum payment?
It just be the interest that they charge you for that month, plus so
plus a little smidge.
Plus a little smidge. So which for some of them they'll say the minimum will be £3 or whatever the balance is, if it's less than that, or it might be £5. Some of them go up in stages, £5, then £12, then £50, and you start seeing the 50.1 something, blah blah blah. But they'll still charge you interest. So even if you pay minimum payment, it doesn't mean minimum payment means you're on time payment, so you don't get a late payment, but it doesn't mean you won't get paid interest. So people have a misconception that if they just pay minimum payment, and because some people are using their credit cards so often, they don't even notice when they're charged interest. So that's that. So the people don't notice that they're charged interest. So they're going to charge you interest regardless. But what you don't want to do is miss a payment or be late on a payment. That's the reason why it's easier for you if you get a credit card, if you know how much you're going to be spending on it every month, is either once you pay it, you may just wait 2 days and pay it off immediately. Why I say 2 days is because depending on your credit card, sometimes if you, let's say if you spend now and you spend £10 now, it might not immediately reflect on your bank account. It'll take 3 business. It might even reflect, but it'll be impending. It'll take 3 days for it to be processed. And so you could say spend £50 now, immediately go to your account, transfer the £50 over, and it will bounce back to your account. And so you might not see it bounce back because for some of the accounts, they won't let they don't let you transfer over your limit. So now it will bounce back, and then now it comes into there as £50. You think you've paid it, it didn't pay. Right. Now, just as a hack for you to pay off your credit card quicker, because most people, they go into the in-app side of your bank, of your credit card, to go and pay for it. The easiest way is that when you get your first statement or your first statement balance, there will be an account number and a sort code associated with your credit card. And you would typically have your 16-digit number would typically be the reference number. So if you go to your main account and you now say, okay, you now set up a new payee, you can name it. Let's say you get a NatWest credit card, just name it NatWest credit card. You put that sort code, what's it called, account number, which, to be honest, even though it's NatWest, might be to go into Barclays, but then you put your 16-digit card number, which would be your reference number. If you do that, that's the fastest way for you to transfer money to your account. Okay. Because if you do the in-app one, if I found, even in my own experience, that it might take some time before they go and contact my bank to take it from me and then whatnot, and before it reflects. So if you want to do that quick, then you just go to your account. That's the easiest way to do it. And then, because I've seen people also, let's say they want to go and access Barclays, they're doing maintenance. Now they're doing maintenance for like a day, and you've left it to the night before your statement balance is going to do that. The quickest way, go to your main account, set that up, and then do that quickly so that you don't carry over a balance. But if you know the amount of money you're always going to be using, then kind of have that kind of rolling, like, just a standing order of, let's say, half of what you'd be spending. So let's say it's £50 you'll be spending. Your minimum payment will probably never be above £12 if it's only £50 you're spending per month. So then just have like £25 of a direct debit going every month at certain dates, which is like the middle of your thing, just to make sure that you never forget. Unless if you know that you're always going to remember, then you might not need that. But that's good practice for people just to do, so that they never forget. Because when you forget and they've already processed it and they've already reported it to the credit reference agency, they can't do anything. But if you tell them before, again, if you're ever going to have to miss, if you tell them before, they'll be able to shift that on to you. They'll be able to maybe delay when they report it or whatnot, because once they report it, Experian ain't giving that back. So when it comes to your credit card, just using it diligently. And then obviously, as you go along your credit journey, then it matters more about, having a higher credit limit, because that will increase your credit score. Having more credit cards, because that will increase your credit score, because you have more credit mix and more lenders are doing. But you also have to be safe about it, about how do you approach it. So you could have the number of credit cards you have doesn't really make you have a bad or good credit card. It's about how you use them. So me now, I have 4. And I'm probably going to move on within the next year and a half. I'm probably going to get 2 more. But then that's for different reasons. So, but at the same time, no carrying over balances. But they're there for different reasons, for different things to do. So it's about using them to your advantage, but you have to be smart about it, because A, it's not your money. B, you have to pay it back. But C, if you're spending, you never spend more than what you have. So your budget shouldn't really actually be like, okay, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this on credit cards. No, I'm going to do shopping, and I'm going to eat £50 a week or £50 a month worth of food. If I'm going to pay for it anyway, I might as well just use my credit card to pay for it and then transfer the money. And it's just as simple as that. So that way you do it. And the earlier you do it, the better for you. So especially a lot of people now remember credit cards because when they want to buy a house. And, I tell people, before you go for a house or apply for a mortgage, you don't want to apply for any other credit within 8 months of applying. And I say 8 months because even if now you go get a credit card approved today and it comes tomorrow, it might take up to 2 months before 6 weeks to 2 months before it actually reflects on your credit report. So now that means that from when it hits your credit report, for them, that's now 6 months prior. So you don't want to do like even phone contracts. Be smart about it. You might have to do pay as you go for a little bit. Like, you know, car, especially the big ones like car, ones that will reflect that you're now or taking out personal loans, any of those kind of things. You know, now don't get it twisted. Now, if it comes to apply for a mortgage, you know, always go for a mortgage broker, because there's ways to work around these things. Whether if you do have these things, if you have bad credit, all these kind of things, there may be a lender that will be out there willing to take you, as long as you're transparent about your situation and you're ready to take over a bit more interest.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the interest, it matters, especially if you're taking over balances. But you want to get as low as balances as possible, and low as interest as possible. And as you go along, the longer you have the card for and the more you use it, you can negotiate. When you go to ask for a higher credit limit, you can negotiate and say you want a higher credit limit. You can even reduce your credit limit, or you can even negotiate, okay, I want to reduce my interest. Now, there's no guarantee that they'll give it to you, but if you want to ask, oh yeah, like I've been here for a while, I've been just looking at other products, but I see that my interest over here is about 22%. Is there anything you guys can do for me? Or should I just continue, shopping elsewhere? If you can't, then cool. And so it's just simple conversations like that. And most of them are very helpful. You know, even though like I wouldn't recommend you going to Amex right now, I would say probably from my personal experience, Amex has had like the nicest customer service that I've dealt with in terms of internet banking or phone bank account kind of situation going on. So those are the things.
Dogs. That was good.
Yeah,
that was very helpful. Thank you. Hey.
Yeah. It's a lot of information.
It is. I'm tired now.
Yeah. So
it was really helpful there. Thank you.
Any other things that you would like to know before I jump off and go take a nap and eat?
For some, no, like what I think like there's a lot to mull over, a lot to go through. So I'm good now. Yeah. No questions for now. I have to jump on a tutoring session in 5 minutes. So
okay.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to make and leave. But appreciate you, friend. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you.
It's all good. It's all good. And don't go and get into credit card debt or anything like that, because it wasn't me that sent you.
Huh?
It wasn't me that sent you. Come back.
But you guys said something.
Who's Ugo? My name is Ugo. Tixon. Let's not Tixon.
Right then. I will talk to you later.
In a bit.
Man. Go enjoy your nap. Go enjoy your food.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Sorry, I'm rushing. Bye.
Okay, bye. You like everything, you'll be fine. So we talked a lot there. Well, I talked a lot, but I hope the information helps you out. Yeah, and obviously we do this and more, but obviously this is the one that you see. I don't know how long this is. I feel like it's about 40 minutes, but yeah, I went through a lot of things there, none specific, but hopefully it helps you out. And if you have any specific questions, I mean specific, or you want an overview about something, slide it into the comments, into the DMs, or book a private consultation, or come to one of our workshops, and we'll be able to help you out on any single thing that you need. Hope you have a lovely day. Take care of yourself, your health, and your wealth. This is the TMS Mentorship Scheme. I've been Ugo. #Jerome, new hairstyle. Take care, guys. Love.